Get on court with the 2025 edition of the Tecnifibre T-Fight 300S. Previously known just as the T-Fight 300, this 300S is the 98 square inch, 300 gram offering in the T-Fight line. This racket keeps many of the same specs, including a 16x19 string pattern and strategically placed internal foam. What's new is a thicker RS beam for additional power, but players can expect the same excellent targeting and feel. I had the opportunity to try a lot of the rackets in the 2025 T-Fight line, but I was on the official playtest of this 300S and the other 300 gram offering with the 100 square inch head size, and this 98 square inch head size ended up being my favorite. I found them very comparable, the two 300 gram versions off the ground, but what I got out of the 98 was just a little bit better fit for my flatter hitting style. With the 100, I did find that I needed a little bit more topspin to keep that ball falling inside the lines, but with the 98, I felt really comfortable with my usual stroke path, and I was also enjoying a slightly more solid feel. At net, I really liked the feel of this racket. I found it to be very comfortable, and I thought that the sweet spot was pretty even throughout the string bed, so I was enjoying the experience there. When it came to serves, I liked how this one swung over my head. I found it to be very easy to find a good rhythm, and I didn't tire out during longer service games, and I was getting decent spin and pace. I am not a huge server, so I just like a racket that I can find that good rhythm with. Overall, I really like this racket because it does offer a good blend of power and control. I would say it does slightly lean toward control, but that's what I like from a racket.
I play tested this new racket with the other new T-Fight 300, and initially I was definitely leaning more toward that 300 because it was more maneuverable and more whippy. But the more and more I played with this racket, the more I enjoyed it, and it made the choice much tougher for me. Even though this one isn't as whippy as the 300, I didn't find it to be sluggish. And what I really did like about this racket was on my backhand slice, I felt like I was able to hit a more knifing shot with it. And also because the weight is more toward the hoop, I felt like it was a bit more stable on missed hits, and also I was getting more plow through with my shots. I also felt like both rackets gave me a lot of spin on my forehand, so I really enjoyed it there. And I was actually serving really well with this racket and with the regular 300 as well. Overall, I really enjoyed this racket. And I think if you were a fan of the previous T-Fight 300, this is a natural update to it, and with just a bit more power. But if you want something that has a bit more maneuverability, you're gonna really enjoy the T-Fight 300.
Like all the other play testers, we have been testing all the new 2025 Tecnifibre T-Fight frames, and although they cosmetically look very similarly, they perform very different. Playing with both the 300 100 square inch version alongside the 398, don't want to get these rackets mixed up, I definitely sensed the precision-oriented nature of the 98, and like Jay was mentioning, the 300 gram version that has a 100 square inch hoop is a little more whippy and spin-friendly. I definitely was able to put a little bit better thump on the ball. It's a little more stable overall with the 98 version. And if you're coming from something like the EGA 98, that racket relied a little bit more on stiffness. I think the RA was somewhere around 71, and it was a little lighter at 298 grams. So you're only cranking out about 11 ounces of overall strung weight. So this one relies a little bit more on a plush feel and weight-based power. It was very easy for me to play with. I'll definitely agree with what Tiffany mentioned. It was easy to get into a rhythm with this racket, whether it was from the baseline or over my head. Probably one of my favorite shots to hit, surprisingly enough, was a backhand slice. Overall, just a great all-court racket, very easy to play with from any part of the court.
I was lucky enough to be on a whole host of the play tests for these new T-Fights, and I have to say that unfortunately this 300S version was probably the hardest for me to use. It felt like this frame was really oscillating between power and control with a nice blend of both, but it didn't really particularly emphasize one or the other that well for me. It felt like the frame at times wanted just a little bit more mass, so I would have appreciated if it was a 305 gram frame maybe, or even a little bit more string bed density would have gone a long way, with maybe an additional cross string for a 16x20 pattern. Both of those additions would have been sweet in my opinion, but what you have is what you get here with this update to the Tecnifibre ISO 300. And the racket itself does top out for me in terms of its spin window. I did have a little bit of trouble rolling the ball at times, depending on the forehand or backhand side. But overall, I do think this frame has a home for a lot of players. It just wasn't the best for me personally. For this playtest, we strung up both rackets with Tecnifibre strings. We've got Razor Code White Here in this one and in the other one, we have Black Code, both at around 52, 53 pounds. For more information on Tecnifiber or anything else tennis related, be sure to check us out at Tennis Warehouse, Tennis Warehouse Europe, and Tennis Only.